Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, I've got a very special guest. He is the head swimming and diving coach at Rutgers University. Today, we've got Jonathan Maccoll.
Hey, Coleman. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, everyone's experience through the last 10 months now since the COVID pandemic has started has been vastly different. Every swim team has their own set of rules and regulations they have to follow. Everyone's reacting differently. We just reported on January 10th that Rutgers University Swimming and Diving expects to redshirt a significant portion of its swim and dive roster. And so we wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you about that. Obviously, we've seen Arizona State redshirt their entire team, and we've heard of other athletes individually kind of redshirting, but I think this is only the second case we've seen, significant portions of a team at least redshirting this season. And so I just wanted to get your take on that. Can you give me a little insight, a little background into what went into that decision?
Yeah, of course. So to kind of just walk you through the timing and the process, we really made these decisions back in July. And, we were meeting with our athletes, communicating with them. And we really felt that the two biggest problems that we were facing immediately as a result of all this was misinformation and uncertainty. So we were really communicating as much as we can. We were over communicating, just to make sure that, if athletes didn't feel like they were on solid ground as far as where we're going and what we're doing, we didn't want them to fill in the gaps and sort of be like, oh, this or that, or this could happen or that could happen. So the original plan was, I'll see you all in January. We're going to redshirt and make a decision later. And that was sort of the original plan. And we had 3 athletes, come in. We met with all of our athletes and we said, what's your training situation? What's your school situation? What's your physical and mental health situation?
And this is in July, correct?
This is in July. Yeah, okay. This was in July. And a lot of the feedback we got was, I can train, but this and, school, and there's so much uncertainty. So taking the season kind of off the plate for the first semester and saying, our goals are for you to be happy, healthy, and where you need to be. And a lot of our athletes were, we have athletes from international, we have athletes that swim for Carmel, we have athletes that swim out for La Mirada Armada out in California, and they were all in really good training situations. So for us, we felt that if they were in a good place mentally and they were in a good place physically, health-wise, that these are great programs. These are great coaches. They're all coming from really talented people. And it was more important that they trained consistently and in a really great environment mentally for them, to be mentally healthy and physically healthy than it was for them to be at Rutgers with our staff. We felt that was more important. So, and the other thing was, if we ever had unfortunately, if we had a positive, the thought was, it wouldn't shut down the whole team. If one of our athletes in Italy were to get it, it wouldn't shut down our Russians, our Americans, and people from all over. So it provided us certainty. It provided us clarity. It provided us a consistency of training. And they were all in training environments that got them to Rutgers and got them to be Big Ten athletes. So we wrote really great about where everybody was at. So we then, fast forward to just before Thanksgiving, things were looking good. We were talking about coming back. And then you had that spike. And I think, you talk about how the different programs, everybody's had a different experience. I think there's a different entry point for every single program in the NCAA with COVID.
Yeah. I just want one question. So between July and Thanksgiving, that period, I guess the fall semester, did you have any athletes that were still on campus?
Yes. Yeah, we had 3 athletes. We had Tina Selick,
Mhm.
who's from Slovenia. She's a wonderful young woman. Her training situation in Slovenia was such that she didn't really have a place to train. The pools weren't really there. Her English was phenomenal. She's a phenomenal student. She came here. She had like a 3.9. She's awesome. So she came over. She trained with us, and then I had a senior in Delaney, who's an engineer and kind of just needed to be here. She's from Orlando and needed to be here. And then we had a pharmacy major, Kaja Demick, who is one of the smartest human beings I've ever met. And she's in the PharmD program. She kind of needed to be here for being in the PharmD program, the 6-year farm doctorate in pharmacy program. So they were here and we were training. And then, we were in constant communication with our athletes, like Federica Greco was training in Italy and, swam really fast at Italian nationals. We were really happy with those results, and our Russians and our other Americans, like I said, down in Carmel and Kat Saladin out at La Mirada Armada, trying to get back on the U.S. team after her injury. So we were in constant communication with everybody. And we were doing sort of team building stuff through Zoom and those sorts of things. But that was kind of the situation that first semester.
Okay. And so, yeah, sorry, then flash forward Thanksgiving, we have the spike.
You have the spike, conversations started changing. What do we want to do? And, right back to it. We had individual meetings. Where are you? What are we doing? And as I kind of said, we were emailing back and forth, our decisions were really based on the values of our program, of our school, and of our athletic department, and where we were going to support them. I think, people can try to make exceptions for extreme cases, or if they get emotional, they can make a decision. I think if you're always rooted in your values of what you really try to stand for and those sorts of things, you make better decisions. And when we had those decisions, we talked through that. A lot of them were like, I'm on the national team. I'm making the national team, or I'm really close to the national team. And we had people, in Italy and Russia and New Zealand and all over the place. So we really supported that. And when that's kind of where we with them moving the Olympics and kind of all of where all that was, we decided that, if certain people wanted to come back, they could. If they didn't, we were going to support that, and we were going to figure this out. And that's kind of where we're at now. We have 4 athletes now on campus. We do have some more coming. It could change any day. But we're getting ready for our Big Ten meet and our Big Tens and NCAAs, and we'll give the best possible experience to our athletes that we have now. We'll support our athletes that aren't here, and hopefully August of 21, if we're back to normal, we'll do great.
So to give our listeners some context, how big is your roster at Rutgers?
So the swimming side's around 24-ish, and divers, 3 to 6, kind of depending on the year.
Okay. And so you've got 4 swimmers on campus currently. So how, going into a Big Ten championships, how many swimmers do you expect to compete at this 2021 Big Tens?
I would say I'd expect at least 5 or 6, but
Okay.
we have a lot of athletes that, if my pool gets shut down in Italy, I'll be on a plane next week, and I'll be training there. And some of our athletes have talked about coming back end of January, swimming through Big Tens, NCAAs if they qualify, and then going back at the end of February, end of March, or middle of March after NCs to, go back and train with their national teams again and be with their families, and those sorts of things. So it could change. I'd say at least 5, maybe as many as 10 or 12.
Yeah. So like we said in the article, we quoted you saying there's a lot of fluidity. As I understand it, winter sport athletes are granted this, kind of an extra year of eligibility because of the uncertainty of this season. And so to you, what is the advantage of redshirting this season versus, trying to make something work from an athlete perspective and from a coaching perspective?
Well, I think that what works is going to be very different for every athlete based on their ability level, what country they're from, where their goals are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So for some of our women, it didn't make sense to come in and here and train because you have Big Ten protocols, which are in place to keep us safe and to keep them safe. And they were concerned that somebody else could test positive and contact trace them out of training for a week or 2 weeks or those sorts of things. And they were really concerned about, hey, I'm trying to make 21 Olympic team. I'm trying to make this team. And even Kat Saladin, who was who's training outdoors in California. It's like, I'm training outdoors in California. We were in constant contact of training what we're doing. It didn't necessarily make sense for her to come back. Where you have someone like Kaja, who is a PharmD major, who is going to be an amazing pharmacist someday, and her primary goals are not trying to get back on the U.S. team like Kat, but to be an amazing pharmacist while swimming and live a very full and rich college experience. So for her, coming back and training made more sense. And if there was a contact trace out or something like that, it would be very disappointing. We would work through it, but it wasn't quite the same priorities as some of our other athletes,
Mm-hmm.
And Kaja's great. I mean, Kaja's placed in NCTs. She's 24th. Yeah, she lost in a swim off, but she was 24th in prelims. Now that I think about it, last year in the 2 fly, she's a really talented athlete. So for us, it really kind of boils down to every individual. And, there's a pandemic. And, as I was saying before with entry points, we are in New Jersey right next to New York City. We can hop on a train that's right on campus and be at Madison Square Garden in 45 minutes. And there are New York and Queens and New York and Manhattan and New Jersey it's a hotspot. And, there's certain levels of comfort with that with some of the athletes as well, and travel and those sorts of things. And so, we had most of our freshmen took classes online and trained at home. We had one athlete, Alexandra Shegaleva, just totally opt out for the year. She's just going to come back next year. She was training in Cyprus and training in England and getting ready for the Olympics for Cyprus and those sorts of things. So it really came down to what was best for every athlete and setting up a plan and not just having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and sort of saying, we are certain with what we're doing. Our goals are clearly communicated. Our values are clearly communicated. What can we do to make sure that this happens? And if this changes, we've got a plan B. And if that changes, we got a plan C. But if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Thanks, Jeff Dugdale. That's what he taught me. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we had tons of plans just set up for everybody.
It sounds like you've been doing a lot of work on your end, just in terms of communication off the deck, and making sure, each athlete feels comfortable, which is nice. So when does the redshirt decision, I guess, come in for ex-athlete? Is it just, whether they are going to be on campus or not, or I guess how do you take me through a conversation like that of, okay, this is your situation, so this is going to lead to a red shirt?
Yeah, so it was a little bit different in November because we knew that NCAA ruling was coming down. Mm-hmm. And so the original one was, do you want to take the year off? Do you want to wait till January? Do you want, how do you want to do this? Do you want to come now? Do you want to come January? Do you want to just say solid, it's going to be the year, I'll see you next year, or whatever. Mm-hmm. For some of them, most of the internationals, it was around their national team, what their goals were, what they were doing. And every national team different. It's totally different for our Russians. We have some Russians coming in that are amazing. And we have some Italians that are amazing, and they're totally different, ends of the spectrum as far as how they do things. Some of our Americans were a more health-based, comfort level, those sorts of things. Most of the decisions were, let's wait and see till January or second semester and kind of figure out where we're going to be. Once it had changed and the NCAA ruling came down, it was sort of, well, what does this year look like, and what do I want to do with this extra year of eligibility? So a lot of them was, I love Rutgers. I love being here. I love this team. I love the culture that we've built. And for someone like Katie Doherty coming from Carmel, it was, how can I stay here for my master's? How can I stay here and continue to go to school here and swim through my master's? And so we had a lot of those conversations. Some of the conversations were, I need to, I need to graduate. I need to go out, get a job. I'm not on a huge scholarship or whatever. And I need to do those sorts of things. So I really want to get there, and I want to have the best year that I can have right now and go out the best way I can. And some of the other ones were, just, I want to wait and just see what happens. So, it's ever changing, and we're really just supporting them and talking through, what are your goals? What are your values? Have your priorities changed? If they have, how do we go through that decision-making process? If they haven't, are we on track? Do you feel comfortable? Are you healthy? Do you have the support that you need? Whether it's in the water, practices, mental health support, physical health support, all those sorts of things, and just making sure that we're giving them everything that we possibly can give them.
Yeah. It sounds like you've created quite an open and supportive environment, which seems great, especially for the time we are in right now. I did have a thought, and my thought is that, coaches are used to being in control. They write the sets, they get the times. A lot of coaches, and I'm not saying you specifically, I don't know, but a lot of coaches, like having their structured routine and being able to mold that as they see fit. Again, buzzword in this podcast, fluidity. It seems like you have very little control in this situation, but it seems like you've handled this with a lot of understanding and grace and just seeing it from the athlete's perspective. Has just this whole redshirting, figuring out what's best for each athlete in these last 6 months, can you talk about the process that's been for you personally as a coach?
Sure. For me personally, there was a lot of lack of control, and it was not easy to deal with. But I give a lot of credit to my mentors and the men and women that I've worked with through the years to help prepare me for something like this. Guys like David Marsh and Jeff Dugdale and Pam Swander. I learned so much from Pam when I was at SwimMac, and even my summer club coach, Dale Ron, there were, who I swam for from 4 years old to 17. They all really helped me get ready for this. And there are things that I was able to control that I sort of leaned into. So, I can be as prepared as I possibly can be when everyone comes back. So I've been spending a lot of time reading McGlisco and reading some Dave Salo stuff and having conversations with amazing people like Chris Webb and David Marsh. And I'm in a group chat with Brett Hawk and all of these amazing coaches and reading John T. Skinner and reading Culture Code and Talent Code and just sort of becoming as prepared as I possibly can be, so that when this comes back, I can control that. I can control how I behave through this process, and I can control what I'm bringing in and what I can give. As coaches, we serve people. That's what we do. So I am now focused on serving my athletes and having honestly extra time on my hands in certain situations, and being even better prepared to serve when they come back.
It's a good answer. Yeah, I obviously the situation is not an easy one to deal with, but again, you're making, like we saw with Arizona State, you're kind of making the best of the situation and giving a lot of that decision over to the athletes and like you said, trying to serve them and help them make the best decision for themselves. I think you brought up an interesting point, and I don't know if there's much more to say on it, but the fact that this extra year of eligibility, the possibility of red shirts as well, kind of brings into play more and more swimmers swimming through their masters, which I think is really interesting. I mean, did you ever see that as a possibility before this year, or have you ever seen anything like that since you've been coaching?
Well, one of the unique things of being at Rutgers is having New York City. New York's we're in the shadow of New York City. We're right by Philly. We're in a huge media market, and I think we have a lot of people that do look at that entrepreneurial spirit of certain things, and kind of all the things and all the resources that we kind of have around here. And we've had discussions with athletes, previously, like Feta actually sat out last year to try to make the national team with Italy. She, our arguably our best swimmer, probably our second best swimmer, just totally sat out as she was getting ready for 2020. And she made the World University Game team. She was under a minute long course in the fly. She was making all these huge strides and improvements, and all through her hard work and her dedication. But we talked about what does a 1 year master's look like, and what programs are good. And because of that, we were, I think, at least our staff was a little bit more educated on that. And, the grad transfer thing is very big in football. And we have phenomenal communication amongst coaches here at Rutgers between sports and between our support staff and stuff like that. And Gila, our athletic, our academic advisor that works specifically with us, she kind of said, I said, walk me through this. It's like, these programs are good. These work. These don't work. These are 1 year. These are 2 years. And we got educated on it pretty quick. And there were those discussions actually happen, I think, pretty regularly. I think if you follow other sports, you could see the writing on the wall with the grad transfer stuff. And, if a kid has a year of an injury and then they have another year left, and, you can see kids trying to maximize their experience, which I think is a great thing. And once again, if I'm going to be able to serve kids trying to maximize that, I have to be educated on it. I have to know about it. So we were very, it wasn't necessarily weird for us to all of a sudden see grad transfers in the portal. And, we kind of were, all right, hey, these 1 year masters work. These don't. This is what we can do at Rutgers. And, what's awesome about the NCAA in general is that there's a spot for everybody, for every academic discipline, athletic ability level, being at Queens, being at Sioux Falls, being at UNLV. Like there's such a gambit, right, of everything there. There's a great spot for everybody. And it's a lot of I tell our recruits when I'm talking to them, is like, we're all ice cream. We're just different flavors. Do you like vanilla? You like chocolate? You like strawberry? Like, it's all good. It's all ice cream. Everybody loves it. So, for us, certain people in certain graduate situations were awesome for that. There's other things that were not so great for that. And if we're not so great for that, there's a place for them. And that's awesome that there's a place for them. That's one of the beauties of the NCAA, and at least where we are in athletics right now. So we really encourage them to look at these programs, and this is a good fit for you. Great. If not, there's another fit for you to go continue your career somewhere else. And though I might hate swimming against you, the whole sport is stronger when you're doing well, leaving with a great experience, donating to your programs when you graduate, and continuing the strength of our sport. So we try to look at a big picture, once again, rooted in our values. What do we really care about? That's sort of, I guess, my take on that.
Yeah, that's a great take. We're all ice cream, just different flavors. I love it. And also, it's like with, I think more and more we're seeing that that an undergraduate degree is not enough when looking into some some career paths. And so it's like, if you can continue swimming, I think we're also seeing more and more that if you stay in the sport longer, you can do just as well at age 23 or 26 or 36 as you can, when you were 18 or 22. And so stay in the sport longer, be on a team that you love, and get a master's degree. It seems like a win-win for everyone. So I want to take it back a little more. Just, you talked about this redshirt discussion starting in July. What was March to July like for you all?
It was, I mean, the gambit of emotions: denial, uncertainty. I remember having the conversation with Teresa Krusova. They're not going to cancel NCAAs. They might do this or they might do that. There's
I think
no
everyone
way.
had that conversation.
Like they'll figure out a way to get to, and they didn't. And for safety reasons, we shouldn't. It makes sense. But it was incredibly disappointing for a lot of them, and for our program that really felt like we were building momentum. And we have great recruits coming in, and it was like, oh, we're really turning this thing around. Like, this is great, and then there was uncertainty, and it was, what are we going to do? And where are we going to go? And I give just so much credit to our administration, our athletic director, Pat, and our SWA, Kate, who's also our sports admin for swimming. They're amazing communicators as well. They were communicating to us everything that they knew, and they were incredibly helpful with the coaches, because putting us on solid ground, we can then kind of translate that down, to our athletes. So the communication support, kind of after the disappointment, kind of, you get to the end of March, and the disappointment is now, how are we going to get better? And what can we do? And how do we turn the page? And those sorts of things. And it led from the top down. We have tremendous leadership in our administration, goes to our coaches. One of the coolest things that happened at Rutgers was we started Zoom calls with all the head coaches. And we started talking with gymnastics, and we started talking with basketball and football. And it was awesome to see our head football coach on this call with the rowing coach and the swimming coach and the tennis coaches and soccer. And we started talking, what are you doing? How are you getting better? What's your situation? And we just opened up the lines of communications, and we started talking about, how is Rutgers athletic department going to get better?
Mm-hmm.
And that was able to sort of translate down to our athletes and say, this is consistent messaging from their friends as well, because, I'm giving the same messaging, that field hockey is getting. And our women that are friends with the women that have field hockey are all getting sort of the same consistent message. And they can all feel like there's a plan. There's not uncertainty. There's so many problems, but, the leaders that are here, are doing what they can, the best that they can, because we can't always be perfect, but the best that they can to really take care of them. And I give a lot of credit to Pat, and Sarah and Kate and all of our administrators that were sort of leading that effort, because I think it helped sort of everybody start saying, all right, let's turn the page. How do we get better? How do we support soccer and getting them ready? And how can soccer support swimming? And how can an athletic department be even stronger? And I think, that leadership, and then that sense of community of, we're all apart, but we're all Rutgers athletes, and we're all in this together. I think making it bigger than just swimming, or bigger than themselves, really helped kind of move everyone through that.
Nice. And just in terms of your team, did everyone pretty much scatter right away? I mean, was there a point where you had a group of athletes at Rutgers bigger than 3 after March?
Yeah, no, we did. So after NCAAs, we were training. We were training, and like, things were moving along, and then, gosh, I don't remember the exact date or week or anything, but we got the call that, like, it's time to shut it down. New York, New Jersey is a hot zone. People are going to be moving out of dorms. We need to get people home. And, at that point, it was just support mode. All right, how can we help you pack? You live in Italy. How do we help you pack? How do we help you get ready, with all this uncertainty? And it became to, what's your lease like? Where are you going to park your car? Where are you going to, all these little things of what can we do? And, how can we feed you? How are we going to take care of you? And it became all of those planning details to help them get to what they need to do. So it was relatively quick. I mean, people were sort of gone, and me and Kelsey, the assistant at the time, were kind of lonely. Like, what are we going to do? But
Yeah.
it's like our family just left, and stuff. So, there was that kind of a really quick transition, but, everybody got home safe. Everybody got home COVID free. Everybody was taken care of, and we did it all within NCAA compliance. So I call it a win.
That definitely seems like a win. And so then when did you finally have athletes come back? Was that in July?
No, people didn't really come back until August.
Okay.
So some of the athletes that started coming back, it was kind of the end of August, and they had to go through quarantine procedures. And, once again, we had plans, and the plans changed probably 5 times in 2 weeks. But our training staff was amazing. Our health and nutrition staff, we have an athlete from Slovenia who's trying to get, meals delivered to her room because she can't leave her room, but she doesn't have a phone number. And, and I was able to hand that off to Katie, our health and nutrition person. And within like 6 hours, it was solved. And Tina got all of her meals, and she was taken care of, and she was really good and happy. And, we were able to Skype and, figure it all out. And, we were able to get in the pool, and we were able to section off dryland areas and coordinate with strength conditioning. And we were able to swim and able to do some really great stuff. And, we got it going, and it was 3 people. And we had Kazmira, who we brought in as our new assistant coach, who, amazing. She's so amazing. I've been so blessed with the last 2 assistant coaches I've had. But, Kaz is super passionate about here. She was an All-American here. She swam here. And, she was super excited to come from Villanova and be back at her alma mater. And it was just great. And, it was a really hard experience, but I think all of us have been through really bad experiences when we look back almost fondly. And, I look back to that month of testing and training and just chaos. And I look at it really fondly because I feel so good about everybody that we got around us. I feel so good about our trainer. I feel so good about our administration. I feel so good about our athletes and our culture and what we've been able to do. And it was nuts. But I it is almost with fondness or a positive experience. August was good. August was good. It was trying, but I think we all walk away better for it.
Absolutely. And hopefully that will be, everyone's perspective, looking back on this pandemic, which, is still very, very much happening. And so looking forward, in these next couple months, it's like you've got a group of athletes there. You've got more athletes coming. Like you said, you're preparing for Big Tens, NCAAs. So what are you as a coach looking forward to and focusing on in these next couple weeks, couple months?
Look forward to serving my athletes. I look forward to helping them reach their goals. And our team culture is really good. And I'm looking forward to seeing that culture pay off. I'm looking forward to, it's so great when I hear, hey, so-and-so is taking the GRE this week. We need to send them a message, from our athletes, within our athletes. And, so-and-so's got nationals in this country, and we got to, send them whatever. So I'm looking forward to that culture sort of executing at a high level and watching that and being part of that. I'm looking forward to Big Tens. I'm looking forward to seeing Pablo on deck at Nebraska. And I'm looking forward to seeing friends and people. I want to see Jesse at Minnesota and Kelly smile and see everybody do great things. And I'm excited to see what the Big Ten's going to do as a whole at Rutgers itself is great, but I want to see the Big Ten do great at NCAAs. I want to see that. I want to see everybody contribute from all the amazing schools and all the amazing coaches that we have. And I'm looking forward to the NCAA championships being awesome and surprising people all over the world that in the middle of the pandemic, we can swim fast and we can do this. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to people swimming fast, our athletes doing really well in all their countries, other athletes doing well at NCAAs. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Team USA can do in the 21 Olympics. I'm looking forward to all the positives that can come out of this awful situation by saying no matter what happens, no matter what's going on, swimmers are tough, swimmers are resilient. We can get through things. We can still swim fast. We can still do this. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to all the positives. I try not to think about the negatives. That's my focus right
now. That's a great focus. Well, Jonathan, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me. It's been great getting your perspective on what, as you said, has been a pretty trying situation. And yeah, I really appreciate you sitting down with me today.
I appreciate you guys too. Keep doing the awesome work at SwimSwam, man. Keep posting positive articles.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.